Okay, we do have a forum. Thanks for everybody that's here and those that are joining us online. Appreciate it. Item 1, approval of the TAC agenda. We have a motion.
Move to approve.
We have a motion. And
Second.
Second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed. Motion carries. Approval of the TAC minutes of February 24th. Second by Lynn. Moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. There you go. Passed unanimous. Director's report. Chad.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the TAC, good morning. We have a few items to report to you, status updates on some, and some activities that's happening, especially safe routes to school and all. First, we have Marky Jonas to give us an update on, the funding grant, if 5310 grant program status.
Okay, sorry. Good morning. Yes, just a quick update on the FTA Section 5310 grant program, which is for enhanced mobility of seniors and individuals with disabilities. WAMPO partners with Wichita Transit to facilitate the application and selection project for this. Wichita Transit is the designated recipient, so they do administer the funding. But WAMPO we held a call for projects from November 15th through January 24th. After submissions were received, a selection committee reviewed them and prioritized them for award. And Wichita Transit is expected to announce the awards in summer 2025. Any questions?
Okay.
Thanks, Mark. I appreciate it. We have an active transportation plan that Peter has put together. Staff is working on a request for proposal to develop the active transportation plan for region, and Peter has some ideas and seeking some input from you.
Yes,
Peter.
So, consistent with our UPWP, we are working on a request for proposals for our active transportation plan. Purpose is to assess existing conditions, identify gaps in non-motorized travel network, and develop strategies for improving active transportation options. Plan will guide future infrastructure investments and support efforts to create a more connected, safe, and accessible active transportation network. And it will build on previous studies that include the Wichita Bicycle Plan, the Kansas Active Transportation Plan, our Safe Routes to School initiative, and our Regional Complete Streets policy. Since we're developing the RFP, we'd love if you have any plans or other projects that you have looked into. We'd like to, if possible, try to integrate as much as we can from our different jurisdictions. So please reach out and let us know.
Thank you, Peter. And just want to give you a context. Staff and I were discussing on how to shape up the regional active transportation plan, connecting Wichita Transit's, Wichita Active Transportation Plan. So one of the things we realized was, how do we have this catalytic projects in the region? For example, we had a Keeper of Plains Bridge as an example. How can we have some, state of the art and regional, the vision and the attractiveness for communities and so on. So we are proposing some catalytic projects for various regions around and some communities that are thinking of connecting important community centers to those active transportation and the gaps, and so that families and communities can enjoy. So that's one thing new that we want to add to this, the RFP, so that the consulting firm look and work with jurisdictions and develop those. That's one idea, new idea we have. And the other ideas, of course, is how do we connect with already existing plans with jurisdictions is another idea. So we want to be sure before we send out the RFP, what other ideas you have that you want to see incorporated so that staff can work with you and then develop this robust regional active transportation plan. So that's the reason why Peter is requesting your input. So just want to share the context with you.
Thank you, Chad.
Thank you, Peter. Appreciate it. And please feel free to talk to Peter after the meeting if you have some ideas like, yeah, we got to include this in the regional active transportation plan. We want to see this happen. We want to see these trails connected. There are gaps here. And even there's another thought we had, like how do we have top 10 cost estimates for typical projects of connectivity? For example, if there's a disconnection, we need the connectivity. What happens with that is we get an idea of cost estimate. It doesn't have to be cost estimate for everything, but even if you have 10 examples, you can, jurisdiction that helps jurisdictions to estimate, okay, if this costs this much, my project would be approximately this much. You know what I'm saying? So those are some of the ideas we have so far, but we are happy to incorporate some other ideas from you. That way we are prepared to release the RFP out. So thank you, Peter. And next we have safe streets and safety. That's our Kim Negret. Kim, thank you.
Yes, good morning, TAC. Just wanted to make you aware that the next round of SS4A, the Safe Streets and Roads for All, grant funding should be announced by next Monday. So we will be watching that to see that announcement. And also, I think many of you joined us at the KDOT Transportation Safety Conference that was held here in Wichita just a couple weeks ago on March 4th and 5th. It was a great event. There were excellent breakouts, excellent keynote speakers, and it was a really great opportunity for the WAMPO staff that attended to network and also to celebrate the safety priorities and achievements that have been made statewide. So there was just over 320 in attendance. So it was a great event. Next, I want to give you an update on safe routes to school. We have launched this program with your help, and we definitely appreciate the help that you have shown in developing our stakeholder committee. The SRTS Stakeholder Committee just met on March 10th for their very first meeting, and we had 9 out of the 14 public school districts present. So very excited. Again, thank you to all of the jurisdictions for joining and helping support this initiative along with our school administration. Online, we have SRF, our consultant team, which includes Bill Tro and Chris Brown, who is going to provide an update.
Yeah, thank you, Kim. I hope everyone can hear me all right. So Chris Brown, I'm a planning project manager at SRF and the deputy project manager for the Safe Routes to School effort here for the WAMPO region. Have a deep amount of experience in the Safe Routes to School planning and project programmatic areas, working in places across Upper Midwest, and so excited to be supporting this effort here in the WAMPO region. Just to kick things off, so we are kind of in the infancy part of getting this planning assistance process up and running. And so we, as Kim noted, recently met with our stakeholder team for the first time to get everyone included and in the know, if you will, on this process, the Safe Routes to School program more broadly. And then our next steps related to specific planning for schools across the region, as well as a best practices guide that'll be forthcoming as well. And so just a little bit of background that I'll jump through quickly. I'm sure many of you are very aware of the Safe Routes to School program, but there are a lot of benefits to the program beyond just, obviously expanding walking and biking networks, making it safer and more comfortable for kids to walk and bike to school. There's also just a variety of health and learning benefits. And so on the screen here is just showing kind of how, obviously there's physical activity, performance enhancements, environmental benefits, and other things, just a note of why Safe Routes is important more broadly. And just a fact here on the side, just noting that for Kansas specifically, students walking or biking to school has, declined from about 50% to 10% over the last 50, 60 years. And so there's been societal shifts, there's been changes in how people travel, but this is why we're doing this good work to try and increase, walking and biking again for students in the Wichita region. Again, very briefly, just to highlight the existing programs in the state of Kansas. So there is a Safe Routes to School program out of KDOT, has a full-time coordinator, has a strategic plan and a vision to enhance Safe Routes to School across the state. It administers funding, grant funding for plans and infrastructure projects. And so there is a lot of good foundation to work from in the state of Kansas and apply that into the Wichita region. So then I'll jump in just quickly into our approach. So we, again, as I noted, kind of have two main areas of focus as a part of this study. Obviously, I mean, beyond that, first and foremost is just getting organized across the region, getting local agencies, city, county governments, the school districts, just first and foremost, talking to one another more broadly through that Safe Routes to School Stakeholders Committee. And then again, we also have this planning and best practices process that we'll be implementing over the next months and year. So first, just showing kind of the steps of our process graphically here. Obviously, our work is connected to those 7 E's of Safe Routes to School that I hope many of you are probably familiar with, from evaluation to education, engineering, and enforcement. And so as you're kind of seeing here, we're in the step 1 on that far left side of identifying high priority schools, and that's being district and community led. And so we sent out, WAMPO sent follow-up out to all of the school districts to help us identify high priority schools based upon a set number for that district to narrow us down to that priority list that we'll dig into and actually complete action plans, inventorying existing conditions, organizing high-level snapshots or profiles, if you will, of each school, assessing the conditions, and then creating some recommendations for programs and infrastructure and other elements for those schools to implement over the coming years. And then on that other track, as I've mentioned now a couple of times, just that best practices guide, which will still be an important living document for folks in the region to use to implement their own Safe Routes to School, either programs, policies, or actually have a step-by-step guide of how to complete plans on their own or as a part of future efforts as well. So really hoping that this can be a one-stop shop, if you will, for folks to utilize to implement Safe Routes to School in the region. Highlighting here briefly our planned engagement. So we do have a multifaceted approach here. We're obviously operating at the metropolitan level. So that is a bit different, admittedly, than typical. Usually we're operating more at a specific school district or even school levels. And so, we're excited to have school districts represented on our stakeholder group as well as the cities and counties, to really help us have strong conduits down to, the school level and community level. We do plan to have some school specific though engagement, in the come early next school year to get folks integrated right at the beginning of school when they're paying most attention. So we will have some parent surveys online to get some information from parents specifically on how they feel their travel is operating today, and if improvements were made, if they'd be interested in walking and biking. Student tallies are just hard data collected by teachers to understand the mode splits for students arriving that day to their class. We also intend to use existing channels of communication, through school emails, school district-wide emails, social media or other avenues to try and engage parents and communities in this process. And then again, as I mentioned, having that back to school, leveraging existing events, existing times in which people are paying most attention to the schools or school district, and how can we integrate our communication into those existing processes. And then walk audits, really important, getting out and doing that field review, understanding the conditions that are out there today in the immediate vicinity of the school, and then how we can, plan opportunities to overcome any issues that are identified from those audits. So we will be calling upon, the schools and other agencies to collaborate with us and help us complete those audits, since there'll be a number of schools to complete within a pretty short period of time. So the best practices guide, as I've kind of alluded to, hopefully being that one-stop shop for all things Safe Routes to School in the Wichita area. And so on the next slide, again, guiding us in a variety of backgrounds, just the basis of Safe Routes to School, how to organize and complete, planning and data collection around safe routes, implementing programmatic solutions or infrastructure, and implementing all of this. That's the key element is we don't want it to be, planning for planning's sake. We want to make sure that we can create some actionable outcomes for safe routes to school in the region.
Thank you.
And then just wrapping up here briefly, just from a safe routes to school planning effort. So on the next slide, you'll just see kind of briefly our process. And so, a fairly typical planning process, but obviously with a focus on safe routes. So what's our vision for the area of the school? What are the existing conditions? What's out there today? What are the issues? What are the opportunities to overcome those barriers or issues? And what's a clear implementation plan, an actionable plan to programmatically or through infrastructure or other means resolve those issues and barriers. And I think just a couple more slides here briefly, just showing graphically, some of the outputs of our previous work from our consultant team that we've done, either SRF, Alta, or Shockey, and other areas across the country. And so showing some snapshots of how we could organize the data from the condition standpoint. And then the next slide, I think there's, just kind of showing how we'd organize actions. So obviously, prioritizing infrastructure improvements to make sure there's, some sort of implementation plan to prioritize the highest need areas, listing out specific programs to consider to increase the walking and biking, and then identifying, very clear next steps to make sure everyone's coordinated on how to implement this in the near term and the long term. And then just to wrap us up with the schedule. So in the green, you're seeing the specific engagement, the road, where we'll be engaging folks, as I noted in the earlier slides, for the stakeholder team, Safe Routes School team, those student tallies, et cetera. And so you're seeing kind of, I know this may be hard to read, but just kind of our process for engagement through communications or other means, and then just our process largely overall. So we will be working into next year, the end of next year. So this is a multi-year effort, but it's a big one. We're excited to be a part of it. And so be seeing more information in upcoming stakeholder meetings, and then also over the summer as we, get the best practices guide drafted and other elements working towards those planning efforts as well. So just jumping into it over the last few months, but we're excited to keep the progress moving, and we'll check in along the way. So I think that should be wrapping up for me. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I have a question. Chris, how far out do you go from the schools to do the walk audit or any other improvements that might be needed around each school?
Yeah, typically focus areas are between that quarter and half mile boundary for improvements. For the audit, usually just because of time and efficiency, it's usually, a quarter mile or less, even right around the immediate school site, which is typically the most congested and hectic during those peak school hours. So for audit specifically, it's much closer in, but from a recommendation standpoint, usually that half mile is the largest boundary area around the school that we work within.
Is it okay?
Any other questions?
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay, yeah, thank you all.
Mr. Chair, I'll have staff share the slides with the members.
Yes, be nice.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's all.
Anything else?
No.
Okay, this time, public comment, anybody from the public, either, I don't think we have anybody here, but if we got anybody online wants to talk. Okay, thank you. Action item, transportation improvement program, Pete.
Good morning once again. We have our amendment number 4 action item. So this amendment had its public comment period from February 28th to March 14th. Today we are here for consideration for TAC recommendation with a tentative vote by TPB on April 8th. You can check out the full details of the amendment summary as a link in your attachment. Also, you can see the staff report inside the packet. There are 18 projects in Amendment 4 that have requested requested changes that require approval. There are 9 requests for new projects to be added to the TIP, and 1 for a project to be moved from the TIP, and 8 projects to be modified in the TIP. This map of the different projects is available within the packet. You can see it here, and we will go through these projects in a summarized fashion very shortly. So we have the City of Derby's Rock Road corridor improvements had a change in costs. It was an increase in cost paid for with local funds. We have 6 Goddard sidewalk projects, smaller projects, all new, added with just local funding on them, and 1 Goddard roadway expansion project, the Crown Drive extension from US 54 to Industrial Road. We have the City of Wichita's Douglas Seneca to Meridian project at an increase in project costs, again, with just local funds. We had the Redbud Path project was split into 2 phases. How that looks like in the tip is the original project is removed and then 2 phases are added. So it appears as 3 entries. KDOT has 5 bridge projects that were modified or changed within the amendment number 4, along with 1 project working with the City of Wichita on the Burlington Northern Santa Fe corridor, examining the feasibility of placing a overhead alert signal or overhead warning system on some of that train or on that railway corridor downtown. And we have here the WAMPO suballocated funding changes. There were no net changes to the WAMPO suballocated funding program. And then here is a summary of all of the federal funding changes on TIP projects in amendment number 4. This is also available in the packet. And finally, amendment number 4 meets requirements. Has gone through public comment and review period. It's consistent with the current MTP, Move 2040. It is fiscally constrained and adds $68.1 million in project costs. Before I go to the action options, any questions for me?
Go ahead.
So our options today, we can recommend the TPP approve the FFY 2025 to 2028 TIP amendment as presented. Recommend the TPP not approve TIP amendment number 4, or recommend they approve it with specific changes. Staff recommends that the TPP approve the FFY 2025 to FFY 2028 TIP amendment number 4 as presented.
Any discussion on that? All right, I entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the Transportation Improvement Program Amendment 4. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, motion carries unanimous. Thank you. All right, thank you, Peter. Next one, you're still up. So the Metropolitan Transit Plans 2050.
So the Metropolitan Transportation Plan, the MTP 2050, the project list changes. So prior to the March 8, 2025, April 7, 2025 public comment period, minor edits were made to the MTP 2050 project list at the request of WAMPO member jurisdictions. The edits do not negate any of the project selections that were made by the Transportation Policy Body on November 12, 2024. And following the edits, the fiscal constraint of MTP 2050 is maintained. 2 projects were requested by their lead agencies to have their titles modified to more accurately reflect their scopes and limits. So we have the Sedgwick County project in the 2029 to 2038 time band. It was updated from the 167th Street West roundabout to the West Street intersection improvements, and no cost change or time band change. And then the City of Wichita project in the same time band was updated from 119th Street West to 131st Street West to 21st Street from 119th Street to St. Teresa Street. And again, that did not incur any cost changes or time band change. And following that, there was one more request to add a bridge projects category. So this would allow for future bridge projects to be necessarily consistent with MTP 2050 so that they may qualify for funding. This mirrors the fiscally constrained project list entries for the bicycle pedestrian improvement projects, traffic flow safety improvements, and ITS projects, commonly referred to these as bucket projects. The combined cost of the future transportation program, the TIP projects associated with an MTP 2050 category are not required to remain within the estimated total cost shown for the category project in the MTP. So there is now a bucket project category for bridge projects. Any questions on the project list changes? That brings us to the Metropolitan Transportation Plan, our public comment period. Is currently in progress, extends to April 7th. No, sorry. Pass it over to Nick Flanders.
Thank you, Peter. We're now going to go over the second half of the appendices for the MTP. But first, a little more background and just to introduce this stuff. First, you'll notice that at each of your places, there is a copy of the executive summary for MTP 2050. I urge you to reference that at your leisure, and please take that home with you if you want. And we also have around the table four copies of the entire plan, including all of the appendices and all of the chapters. I urge you to pass those around the table and refer to those as you like. And of course, all of these draft chapters and appendices are on our website at www.wampo.org/MTP2050, including the project list with the changes that Peter just went over. And we are in our public comment period, March 8th through April 7th. So please, 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 during this time, get us whatever comments you can so that we can incorporate those into the MTP in time for the final vote by the TPB on May 13th and the recommendation from this TAC on April 28th. So if we can get everything in time to be able to have that vote by the TAC on April 28th, and really a couple weeks before that would be ideal, really. Please, please, please get those comments in as quickly as you can. And after the May 13th approval by the TPB, the only thing left will be the last round of public engagement to introduce the approved plan to the public. Once again, the vision of MTP 2050 is to enhance connectivity in a way that supports equitable development of a safe, reliable, multimodal transportation network that enriches the quality of place within the WAMPO region. And this vision is supported by the goals of making things safe and reliable, equitable and accessible, connected and multimodal, and engaging in environmental and financial stewardship. And just a quick shot, once again, of where you can find these draft chapters and appendices on the website at www.wampo.org/MTP2050. One tab for the 7 chapters and one for the 14 appendices. Again, those 7 chapters which we presented on last time are plan, purpose, and development, regional trends, existing conditions, system management, system performance report, and that chapter includes our performance measures for the plan. data that can be tracked over time to determine progress towards goals, including the required federal performance measures, but then also non-federally required regional performance measures created for the WAMPO region. Chapter 6, financial plan, showing how the MTP is fiscally constrained, i.e., it does not plan for more spending than the amount of revenue that is expected during the same period. And finally, Chapter 7, project selection and list, which includes the fiscally constrained project list, which was the subject of the last discussion item here, with all the projects, category projects, and specific projects that are specifically planned for in there and necessarily consistent with the MTP, and therefore eligible for entry into our short-range planning documents and or consideration for funding. And now we are going to go through the second half of the 14 appendices. Last time we presented on the other 7. And a quick note, since the last meeting, we did update the order of the appendices to make them what we consider to be a more rational order. So the ones that we presented on last time had been the first 7, and that's why the ones that are bolded here that we are going to present on are not all in one block on here. And we're not even going to present them in the order in which they're presented anyway. That's really just about making sure that we don't have too many swaps between presenters during this. We'll go through Appendix C, MTP amendment procedures, Appendix E, cost estimation model, Appendix F, travel demand model, TDM forecasts, Appendix G, congestion management process, Appendix I, comprehensive safety action plan, Appendix L, electric vehicle network plan, and Appendix M, commuter flows. Starting with Appendix E, cost estimation model. We had a call for projects back on September 15th, 2023 through February 2nd, 2024. All of the projects that were submitted during this period were required to include a cost estimate. They had to include a cost estimate so that we could make sure that the fiscally constrained project lists produced at the end actually would be fiscally constrained, because you have to know the cost of the projects in order to make that calculation. But to aid in this process, we gave the jurisdictions the option of using a model for cost estimation that our consultants developed for us, so that one, smaller jurisdictions with fewer resources could come up with cost estimates, and two, so that there would be a little more consistency between cost estimates across projects and across jurisdictions. However, this is an optional tool. If a jurisdiction was able to come up with an accurate cost estimate using their own methods, they were free to do so. And this cost estimation tool was broken out into different kinds of projects for how to estimate the costs. This included bridge rehabilitation projects, bridge replacement projects, traffic signals, road diets, turn lanes, intersections, sidewalks and multi-use paths, bicycle lanes, i.e. on the road bicycle lanes, roadway expansion, i.e. adding through lanes, roadway reconstruction, and building entirely new roadways where there was not one before. Appendix L, electric vehicle network plan. In all likelihood, between now and 2050, use of electric vehicles will increase in the region, and therefore we must plan for that and be prepared for it, including by having a plan for the deployment of electric vehicle charging infrastructure. So in 2024, WAMPO completed the electric vehicle network plan, which outlines a strategy for the deployment and development of regional EV charging stations. It identifies optimal locations for those stations, and it promotes equitable access to the stations and ensures compatibility with EV goals at other levels of government. The EV network plan aims to reduce emissions, improve air quality, and support regional sustainability initiatives. And now I will turn things back over to Peter Moore.
Thank you, Nick. Moving through these appendices, we have Appendix I, the Comprehensive Safety Action Plan. So in 2023, WAMPO and the community partners developed a comprehensive safety action plan to better understand crash data and coordinate safety strategies for the region. It includes an exhaustive analysis of crash data, including heat maps of high crash locations and contributing factors, and also includes an implementation plan with strategies to reduce or eliminate crash-related serious injuries and fatalities within the WAMPO region. Appendix F, the travel demand model forecast. So some background, we hired the consulting firm JEO and subconsultant Caliper to update the travel demand model for the region. The TDN divides the region into the small 1,667 traffic analysis zones. I say small, but it's a relative term. The TAZ population and employment projections are used to forecast future trips on the transportation network and resulting traffic volumes and congestion. This is done for both the base year and our horizon year, 2050, and that accounts for the planned future projects within the MTP. And the appendix contains the results of many of these TDM forecasts. And of course, these are always subject to ongoing model updates as we try to keep it as up to date as possible. So we can use this to help our WAMPO member jurisdiction partners plan for future changes to the transportation network. Appendix G, our congestion management process. So this is a required planning document for metropolitan areas with populations over 200,000. It has a systematic approach to managing traffic congestion based on regional transportation system performance, looks at development and selection of appropriate strategies to reduce congestion, and is intended to provide a safe and effective integrated management and operation, or it's intended to provide a safe and effective integrated management plan for the operation of the multimodal transportation system. Oh, sorry. Go. Trying to.
Oh, no, that's the cursor.
Oh, I see. Okay. Oh, no worries. Make sure I'm not missing this thing. Okay. Go. With that, Appendix M, commuter flows. So this is an analysis of workers' residence locations and workplace locations. It covers all municipalities in the WAMPO region. The source is the U.S. Census Bureau data, largely from W-2 information. An example city of this would be the city of Wichita, and its 2020 population was 397,532 per the decennial census. At that time, workers living in the city was 173,507. So if you take the inflow and the internal, that's how many people that would work within the city during the day. The total jobs in the city, workers living, that's my mistake. That was workers living in the city is not inflow plus internal. I'm sorry. The jobs in the city would be 197,929. Because that would be your inflow plus internal. Okay. And then finally, Appendix C, MTP amendment procedures. The federal regulations require that MPOs must update their Metropolitan Transportation Plan every 5 years. Before the next scheduled update, unforeseen circumstances may arise. So we do have MTP amendment procedures that provide a clear means performing ongoing updates as needed. So a written amendment request may be made to the WAMPO executive director, and WAMPO staff may issue a call for changes proactively asking member jurisdictions and planning partners to request specific changes in the plan. Amendments must be consistent with the applicable federal regulations and go through a public comment period and be voted on by the TAC and TPP. And then public engagement, round 4. I'm going to pass it over to Marky.
Thank you. Yes, just to reiterate, Nick mentioned earlier, and I think Peter may have as well, we are currently in our public comment period for the draft plan. I will urge you again, please take a look, please leave comments, let us know if you have any feedback. The public comment period opened on March 8th and it will go through April 7th. Please submit comments either on the website, we have a comment box, or you can email wampo@wampo.org. We also do have some paper comment forms, or really any way you would like to write a comment, we will happily receive it. We've also been trying to attend different community events and host some as well. We held a virtual public meeting on March 12th, the recording of which can be found on our website or at the link shown here, which is also available on a handout at the table and lots of places. And then we are very excited to be holding an open house on Wednesday, March 26th from 4 to 6 p.m. at the Wichita Regional Chamber of Commerce, which is at 350 West Douglas Avenue. That will be a come and go event. We'll have poster boards. Please feel free to look around. They look great, I think. They turned out nicely. They arrived last week. You can look at the plan, kind of get an overview. And then we will do a brief presentation at 4:30 and then again at 5:30. This will be another great chance to leave comments, ask staff questions, and get to know more about the plan in a more casual environment. And then we are also still seeking other engagement opportunities. If you know of any public meetings you would like us to come present at, please let us know. We have done some already and we have a few more scheduled, but really any opportunity to get the word out to the public would be fantastic. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions either about public engagement or about the draft plan in general?
Yep, definitely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good information, folks. Appreciate it. Okay, other business. Anybody have any other items they need to bring up before the board?
I just want to ask a question, if you don't mind, Mr. Chair. Do you guys have commuter flow data currently available?
The most recent set released by the Longitudinal Employment Household Dynamics arm of the census is for 2022. For your request on there, I can point you to the online resources, and we can also, if you have a specific question, I can try to put together that data in such a way that would hopefully answer it.
Thanks. I'll send you an email. I appreciate it.
Very welcome.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, other business? If not, we stand adjourned. Thank you.